going on, everybody? Happy Easter, happy Sunday, and happy baseball to everybody watching. Thanks for joining us today. 12 baseball games to talk about. NBA playoffs going, of course, Easter Sunday, but we're here bright and early, joined by Third and Schlong on Draft Sheet, talking today's MLB slate. Bryce, how you doing on this Easter morning?
We're having a good Easter here. Wife made a great breakfast. We typically, her sister has twins, like young twins. So like they typically celebrate Easter on Saturday, which is great. So we did all that stuff yesterday, got it out of the way. Not that it was bad or anything, but yeah, it's nice to have a nice, relaxing Sunday morning when, we have the show and NBA going on, baseball going on. It's kind of a busy day.
Yeah, a very busy day for those of us not involved in, the family Easter activities such as me. So I'll be enjoying watching sports throughout the day, eating some good food, eating some candy, and hopefully a winning Sunday as well. We do have a lot of baseball to talk about. 12 games. I think all of them are going to play. Some nasty hitting weather most places, but I do think they're going to get these games in, at least for the most part. And like I said, we do got 12 of them to talk about. So let's get to it. We'll go by the DraftKings order of games. I think we have, almost all these games start like at the same time. So fast and furious baseball slate on tap here, which is good, I think, for a little Easter Sunday. You can focus on the basketball for those of you doing that. But let's start with it. We'll start in Atlanta for Twins and Braves. Going to be warm here in this one. A little bit of winds blowing in, but given some of the conditions that other teams will play in, this is one of the better hitting environments on the slate. We've got Joe Ryan going for the Twins. Kind of know what he's all about at this point. Been a similar pitcher for multiple years now. Good strikeout pitcher, doesn't walk anybody. Can be prone to the long ball, but in general, not a pitcher you really want to target against too often, in my eyes at least. And then Mr. Kenny Powers Jr., Grant Holmes, going for the Atlanta Braves. Started off pretty shaky, but he's had a tough run of matchups, Schlong, in LA, in San Diego, in Toronto, and versus the Phillies. That's four at least pretty good offenses, and none of them strike out at high rates. So Holmes finally does get his best matchup of the season here against a pretty punchless Twins team. 6,600 for Holmes, Bryce. That's an enticing price point for me, and I'm not even a huge Holmes believer, but this might be one where I take the at least perceived price discount. I think Ryan's an okay play, but I do think there are better options on this slate. And then for bats, not my favorite game here, but I suppose you can make a case for some of these guys at least. What are you doing, Bryce, with Twins and Braves to kick off the slate?
I kind of like the Atlanta side here, both pitching and hitting. I think Joe Ryan's a little too expensive to play on this slate. I find myself like going all the way up to the top at pitcher, or like kind of all the way down to the bottom. And Grant Holmes is one of those guys. As you mentioned, he's had a really tough run of matchups here, and much better at home against the Twins than any of the four he's had so far. He's super cheap. He's the cheapest pitcher I'd play today. He's only 6.6K. There's a couple guys down here that I like, and he's one of them. The other one's also named Holmes, but we'll get to Clay here in a bit. I do like Grant. I don't think he would make. I'm playing a main team in 150 today, so like he's going to make my 150 pool for sure. Probably be, I guess, like 20% on him, maybe. I was getting kind of a decent amount of cheap pitchers when I was building teams before the show. So like the typical pairing was like take a cheap guy and then an expensive guy, and you can kind of do whatever you want at bats, like if you play Grant Holmes. So I kind of like him. Atlanta, I kind of prefer them in smaller stacks. You mentioned Ryan's susceptible to long ball. While Ryan's not someone I'm on today because of price, I also don't think he's someone like you actively want to target here. I think there's better spots to him in Twins bats. So kind of under on the Twins, probably field or over on Atlanta bats, and over on Grant Holmes for me here.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I do think the Braves, if you're targeting against Ryan, which again, I wouldn't go with the full stack, but I do think trying to pick off home runs against him is always fine, especially on a team with as much power as the Braves. So Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, all in the 4K range, I think are good plays. Michael Harris heating up a little bit. You can go with him. And then on the Twin side, if you are going against Grant Holmes, so I do think he'll pick up a decent amount of ownership. I do like how this rookie for the Twins, Luke Keeschall, has looked through a couple of games. He's still really cheap, 2,500 in the 7 hole if you need some price savings, which you might on this slate. It is kind of tough to find bats that you like that are in good spots. So good price saver there. That's Atlanta and the Twins. Let's move to Cincinnati and Baltimore. Another game where I think we could see some runs. Again, not perfect hitting conditions here. Some winds blowing in from looks like left center field, but still should play pretty decently, at least for the left-handed power, which is what you want in Camden Yards in Baltimore anyway. And then we got 2 pitchers who I do think are worth picking on. Charlie Morton going for the Orioles. Again, a pretty talented arm, but one who gives up a lot of base runners year after year, prone to big innings, prone to blow-up starts. And we know the Reds are maybe – I mean, they got to be up there in the terms of most volatile teams in the league, where they're going to have plenty of big days and then plenty of awful days. I think they've been already shut out 4 or 5 times this season, but have put some big numbers on the board too. So I do like the Reds as a stack against Morton. I think Ellie De La Cruz is pretty clearly the top dog there, but certainly the guys surrounding him you can use. Both these teams dug deep into the bullpen, especially yesterday as well. So we could see some scoring late in this one in Baltimore. And then Brent Suter going to get the start for the Reds. Last pitched on the 17th, just one batter in that one. Hasn't gone longer than 2 innings in any outing this year. So I would assume probably 2 to 3 innings max for Brent Suter, possibly just 1. I'm not sure exactly what the Reds' plan is, but regardless, Schlong, it's a bad bullpen behind Suter as well. And the Reds are going to, I mean, if he really can't go more than, 2-3 innings, which I think is true, they're going to kind of struggle to get through this game with the arms they have left. So this is another game that I think you could definitely go to for offense. The Orioles, one of my favorite stacks on this slate. And a little bit interesting that they've got some of their lefties in there who they usually platoon or bat at the bottom of the lineup. Mullins leading off from the left side, left on left against Suter, and then O'Hearn also left versus left. Usually doesn't even start against lefties. So it makes me think, Schlong, that they know Suter's not going to be in there long and they're going to face mostly right-handed hitters, or right-handed pitchers rather, the rest of the game. So I think the Orioles in a really, really good spot here. What do you see, Schlong, Orioles and Reds?
Yeah, one of my favorite games of the day for bats. I think the only downside to the Orioles here is just their prices are kind of, as expensive as they'll be all season. Yeah. But you have some cheap players in the lineup to fit them in. I think with you mentioned these lefties starting, I think that lowers the pinch hit risk on someone like Laureano. And he's 2K. So, if you play him as part of your Orioles stack, which will be a popular route if you're stacking the Orioles, it just opens up. It opens up a lot. You don't have to totally punt pitchers to get them. I'd say the Orioles are probably my second favorite stack of the day. I like the Red Sox a good amount. We can get to why here in a bit, but I do expect myself to be over the field on the Orioles and probably over the field on the Reds too. They're a high upside offense. Pretty solid hitting weather here. It's not anything great, but it's not bad, which is kind of the key today. Morton, I don't really love. I would prefer both Holmes to him. He's kind of a fringe guy that'll make my pool. I don't have a definitive answer on whether I'm going to play him or not. Probably not even in my 150, but he would be one of those guys that you could include at 5 to 10%. He does have some strikeout upside here. If I was making 3 teams, he wouldn't be in consideration. But if you're playing 150, I think he can be in the mix for you today. Hitting wise for the Reds, I like the upside of Ellie, obviously. Austin Hayes to me is super cheap at 3.5. I think Spencer Steer's a decent play at 3.5. you've seen Fraley have a good game, 3-2, Lux 3-4. Like they're not that expensive of a team unless you're trying to play like Matt McClain and whatnot. So I could see the Reds as 5-mans here. I would probably prefer them as a 3-man, but I don't hate it. I like this game in general.
Yeah. The fact that the Orioles are starting those lefties at the top of their line, it's really weird. Like Tyler O'Neill, who's like just a lefty masher, not in the lineup against Suter, you would think he'd be in there, like, for that first inning. So I'm not really sure what it's unusual for sure. It strikes me as something's going on with that Orioles lineup, and maybe it's just that they think the lefties can mash Suter straight off the gate, right? Because they got him at the top of the lineup. So sometimes teams will tell you a little something, and I think this might be a case where maybe the Orioles, they must think they have something leading off Cedric Mullins against a lefty, who I don't think this has happened all season, and I don't expect it to happen very often. The fact that they plugged him up there makes me even more interested in Mullins and O'Hearn, the two lefties. So I'm in on these guys. I'm looking at the bullpen. Not a lot there throwing from the left side coming out for the Reds after Suter. So I do think a sneaky good spot, especially for those lefties on the Orioles at the top of the lineup, Mullins and O'Hearn specifically. Let's get to Fenway Park, White Sox and Red Sox, another game that should be reasonable for offense, around 60 degrees. Pretty strong crosswinds out to right field, so maybe mitigating some of the potential home run damage out over the monster, but still can obviously well-struck fly ball is gonna go out in Fenway to left field. Tanner Houck going for the Boston Red Sox. People remember back to whenever that was. Was that a week ago? Maybe
that was his last start.
Yeah, I mean, whenever it was against Tampa, I talked a lot about in the show how bad he had looked coming into that. Unfortunately, didn't play quite enough Rays in my own lineups, but 11 earned runs over 2 1/3 innings for Houck. It has been a rough ride for Mr. Houck, even dating back to the second half of last year. Of course, he does get the ultimate bounce back matchup here against this White Sox lineup. I still can't use Houck, but I'm not sure the White Sox are good enough to use either, even against him. So I'm not sure what to do with Houck versus White Sox. It's pretty unusual for me not to be on either side of that one. But I do think this might be a scenario where you can safely avoid both. And then Sean Burke going for the White Sox, throwing from the right side. Another offense, the Red Sox, I like quite a bit here against Burke, and a horrible bullpen behind him that is absolutely gassed out as well. The White Sox are. I think they used 5 relievers yesterday. I mean, they're going to be tired all year, but this is a really, really good spot, I think, for the Red Sox, who hopefully show up with the bats, because I'll have quite a bit of them on my teams. What are you doing, Schlong, with the White Sox and Red Sox here in Fenway?
I'll be rolling out a 5-man Boston stack on my main team. It'll be kind of chalky, but I don't see how they don't match Burke today, and a really bad and tired bullpen. They probably have to leave Burke in there longer than they would want to if he does get hit too, and if he doesn't have it, it could go extremely south very quick for him. Anytime Ohtani's on the slate, he's the top hitter. But other than him, I think Duran and Devers are probably 1-2 after him. I like both sides of the plate here, but I really do like the Boston lefties. Those two would be priorities to get in my lineups. I'm not playing Tanner Houck. I don't hate the White Sox as like a cheap 2 or 3 man if you need like some absolute punch in here. A lot of other cheap hitters carry a lot of pinch hit risk, and some of these White Sox really don't. This might be the first and only time I recommend them all year, but I don't hate I don't know, an Andrew Vaughn or a Matt Tice or even Benintendi for super cheap.
You're talking a $2,600 player who's going to get at least 4, against Houck in this bullpen. I don't know. I'm with you. I think. Yeah,
I could see playing the White Sox. They were under consideration for my main team, even as a small stack, just because they're so cheap. And if you want to play expensive pitching with good bats, you need to find a cheap stack somewhere. And they're probably probably my favorite, like absolute dirt cheap stack. I'm not like going nuts on them in my 150, but they do provide like a ton of salary relief if you need it.
Yeah, I'm taking a rare break from watching baseball today, and so the White Sox are a little bit more can stomach them a little bit better, knowing that.
Yeah, if you're not watching the games and you don't have to watch their at-bats, you can just see if they score any fantasy points.
I'll check in later and hope they accumulated 8 DK points with the White Sox. So, man, I don't know. I can't remember clicking on like any of those guys for most of the year. I played some Chase Meadroth who got scratched today, but yeah. It is a good spot.
He was a really good play, actually, before he was scratched.
Yeah, he was in my lineup. Obviously no longer, but he was my favorite. I can't do that. But anyway, these White Sox are cheap enough against a bad pitcher that, yeah, they are in consideration if you do need that savings, which I do think it does go a decent way today toward making some good lineups. Let's get to Miami and Philly next. Very, very high scoring game yesterday with the winds blowing out, unfortunately. The winds have turned inward and are blowing in from center field. Going to play like a much different ballpark today. Doesn't mean there couldn't be offense here. The Phillies do still have a really good matchup against Connor Gillespie and a horrible Marlins bullpen. So certainly Phillies could do some damage despite less than ideal hitting conditions, especially compared to yesterday. But the Phillies do have their looks like they're pretty much their top lineup out there, close to it. So I still do like them against Connor Gillespie. The problem is they're just pretty damn expensive, especially the guys in the middle, Turner, Harper, and Schwarber, but still good plays. And then Jesus Luzardo, the Lizard King, started off the year super hot, has faded a little bit in these last couple games, but still a very talented pitcher. Takes on his former team here in the Marlins, and of course, always going to be a good matchup really for any pitcher going up against the Marlins, who do have 3 lefties in the lineup for Luzardo to hopefully mow down. I do think Luzardo's got to be on the short list of pitchers today, Sean, at 9,500 rather. Pretty good umpire for him behind the plate as well, Ron Culpa. So, yeah, all Phillies here for me as usual. I don't think I'm going to end up on many, if any, Miami Marlins. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing? Miami and Philadelphia.
I like Luzardo a ton here. I think he's my favorite price adjusted play at pitcher today. Kind of up to me, or trying to decide my second pitcher. Like he's kind of an easy fit for me today. I just think he absolutely mows down his old Marlins team here. He's been really good this year, and I expect that to continue today. Wind's blowing in, good pitching on. I think there's a lot to like here. You're going to have a ton of him in my 150 as well. I was getting upwards of 50% on him. I just think a really solid play. Philly bats kind of like, I'd rather play the Orioles than them, but like I'm still going to have some of my 150. I'd rather play the Red Sox. They're priced up here, but I think they're solid plays. It's always a high upside lineup. I think Trey Turner and Harper would be like my 2 priorities. I mean, Schwarber at 6'1" is a little hard stomach. Stott leading off is fine, and you do have some cheaper bats towards the back end of the lineup if you're 5-manning them. So I'll probably have 10% Phillies 5-mans today, something like that. Not going crazy, but I think they're definitely playing. With some of these cheaper pitchers, you can fit them.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're like maybe 4th on my list, but certainly in play are the Phillies. Just more a matter of the price and just liking a little bit more the Orioles, like we mentioned, the Red Sox, and then another team that we'll talk about coming up here in a moment. So yeah, I think Philly's fine. If I'm spending, there are a couple other places I prefer to go. Even some maybe individual one-offs that I think are slightly better than a Harper, Schwarber. So I don't think those guys will make the cut on my few lineups, but certainly high upside against Gillespie, who's not any good, and a good bullpen matchup as well for those Phillies bats. And no problem with Luzardo. I think one of those pitchers that, if he ends up in your lineup or you got a good portion of him in MME style, I'd leave it right there because he should pitch very well against this Marlins team, no doubt about it. Cleveland and the Pittsburgh Pirates are up next. This one in Pittsburgh. another moderate weather day. Shouldn't have a huge effect on this game either way. Going to be Mitch Keller going for the Pirates. I think a pitcher that you can kind of stack against Mitch Keller. He does have his good games from time to time, but he's hittable, gives up power, can run a little bit against him. So I do think this Guardians team is at least somewhat interesting. Also, power out to right field for these lefties is very doable against Mitch Keller. So I think this Guardians team maybe a little bit sneaky. Logan Allen going for the Guardians, coming off masterpiece for him, at least, against Baltimore, 5 2/3 scoreless, 6 Ks in that one. Did get up to 95 pitches, and does have another really good matchup here against the Pirates, who outside of O'Neal Cruz, who is not in the lineup today, this Pirates team, sorry Schlong, I know you're a Pirates fan, has looked really, really bad. And outside of maybe Brian Reynolds in the lineup today, they just don't have a lot there. I wasn't really in on Logan Allen, and I'm still not sure I'm going to get there, but he is cheap. And I mean, this is a bad lineup with a lot of strikeouts in it. So maybe Logan Allen is in consideration. What are you doing, Bryce, with the Guardians and the Pirates here?
Probably a game I'm going to be low on in general here. I think you can play some Guardians like 3 and 5 mans. If you're playing 20 teams or 150, I think that's fine. I mean, you could talk me into them, period. But I think they're better like large field plays because they're going to be like 1% today. You kind of gave the case for them in terms of their upside. Don't really want anything to do with Mitch Keller today. Also don't want anything to do with Logan Allen. Probably is going to be under on this game as a whole. Pirates do have some cheap bats here. Like Candelario and Triolo are kind of popping in projections, but I kind of worry about some of their pinch hit risk. Like the Pirates do have a ton of lefties coming off the bench here. So not super interested in my Pirates. As you said, they've been atrocious and they're missing their best player by a mile today. So I don't think that equates to like being able to play Logan Allen on your teams. I don't think he has, enough to get there on the winner, even in large field GPPs.
At 5,600 against this team, I don't know. I mean, you can get through 5. Maybe.
I mean, you could make a case for it,
but
I don't know. I would rather pay an extra 1,000 or 2,000 for pitchers that I perceive to have more upside. But I don't know. If you told me you were playing Logan Allen or some of these other guys, I would much prefer him to a Sean Burke or a Gillespie, Waka, any of these dirt cheap guys. So if you find yourself at that price point, it's fine. I wouldn't go nuts on them max 10%. It would be kind of where I would get uncomfortable having any more than that.
Yeah, we've got him at 1% owned, and Sabres got him at 2% owned. So at that price point in this matchup, I do think he's a reasonable play. Again, I'm not a guy I was planning to play, but yeah. When I look at all those numbers, point per dollar, all that stuff, and there is bats to spend, and I do think Allen is a reasonable play. And then looking back at the Guardians, I had overlooked just how bad Mitch Keller has gotten at holding runners. Last year, he gave up 33 stolen bases, which had to be at the very top of the list. Only 1 stolen base, so bases went 33 of 34 against him. This year, they're 6 for 6 in 23 innings. So doesn't look like it's improved at all. I mean, that makes him arguably the easiest pitcher to steal bases against. Guardians, speed-wise, Quan can run, Jose Ramirez. I don't have a ton of speed. Nolan Jones, does he have speed? Off the top of my head.
Not particularly, but he's not the slowest person ever.
Got some power for sure from the left.
Definitely has power.
So I think this Guardian stack may be a little bit more interesting than I gave him credit for initially. And really both sides kind of on the Guardians here. Maybe placing a bet against your Pirates after the show, Shalon, because I kind of like how they profile a little bit overall against this Pittsburgh team. Let's move it to Seattle and Toronto up next. This one in Toronto, we've got Easton Lucas going for Toronto. I know a decent amount of people, I think, tried their luck with Lucas against the Braves last time out after Lucas had 2 good outings. That did not turn out well. 8 earned runs over 5 innings, gave up 3 home runs in that one. I talked before the start that I did like the Braves in that game. Lucas, to me, when you watch him pitch, he just profiles as someone who's going to give up a lot of home runs to right-handed hitters. That's exactly what happened in that game. Austin Riley got him twice. Sean Murphy got him. Albies had a near miss. And they were kind of teeing off those right-handed power bats. So I like this Mariners team. I like how they profile against Lucas. I don't think I've played the Mariners all year long as a stack. That'll change today. I like this team quite a bit. Dylan Moore, Julio, Camporeale, Rosarena looks good to start the year. Even another cheap catcher, Mitch Garver, in the 5-hole at 2,400 you can look at. And they've got some cheap guys at the bottom of the lineup as well. So won't happen often for me, but I am in on this Mariners right-handed power, specifically at the top of the lineup against Lucas. And then Mariners will pitch Luis Castillo. I think Castillo versus the Blue Jays makes pretty easy fade on both sides. I really have no interest in Castillo, low strikeout matchup, but I don't think I really want to play the Blue Jays against him either. So I'll pretty easily cross off the Blue Jays stack and Castillo himself and focus on the other side of the game with the Mariners bats. Like him quite a bit. And sounds like I'm not the only one. If Dylan Moore is really going to be 37%, maybe I'll have to change my tune. But I do think, at least expected production-wise, Mariners look pretty good here. Bryce, what are you doing? Mariners and Blue Jays?
I have literally the exact same take as you. Not much else to add. I think something you like. I don't know if you haven't been paying attention. Seattle platoons a lot of these guys, so like there is a good amount of pinch hit risk to like. I'd say like Solano for sure, like Garver. I would watch out. Those would be like the 2 I'd really watch out for. Ben Williamson as well. Getting pinch hit for, but I mean they're 2K for a reason. So like I'm not excluding them from my pool or anything, but just be wary of the pinch hit risk there. I think straight up like Julio and Rosarena are like 2 of the best plays on the slate period, regardless of price. And they don't break the bank here at 4.9 and 4.2. What's his face? Cal Riley's been one of the best hitting catchers in baseball for a while now, and getting a catcher that like can get you good points, like hitting third in a team that I expect to do well is always like a very positive thing. So I like Seattle here. I'd just be wary of the pinch hit risk a bit.
Yeah, ownership doesn't concern you on them. You're willing to that.
I mean, a bit. Like I'm not gonna. My 150, I'll probably be like, 20% on their good players and like 10% on their bad players, something like that. Maybe a little bit under like Solano and
those rest of the guys. We're kind of with the field. Sounds like
I mean, if they come in like absurdly high on a 12-game slate, I'll be under, but I don't expect them to get that high here.
Yeah, makes sense with Seattle. They are going to be very popular, but I do expect production. So one of those spots where you're going to have to decide, you're eating the ownership. If you are, maybe you've got another stack with them that will be lower owned to get you a little bit different or pitchers, whatever it is. Just be aware. A lot of people are going to be riding the Mariners train after doing the opposite last time out against Easton Lucas. I think all the people that had him last time, Bryce, are like, I'm stacking against him now.
Again. Yeah.
Makes me think that it probably won't work out, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see with the Mariners. Let's get to George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa next for the Yankees and the Rays. Going to be playing in some heat in this one. Should be around 90 degrees for most of this game. Looks like crosswinds out to left field. Watching this park over the last couple weeks, Bryce, I think the wind direction and strength is underrated in this park. Where again, it's kind of out to left field. I think it becomes difficult hitting home runs even to right field when the wind is, it's like the minor league park. It's the kind of the Florida winds. And it just looks like watching the games. I know some of the park factor stuff doesn't necessarily agree with me on the outsized effect, but we'll see when, kind of the data's final at the end of the year. I think it's going to prove to be a stadium that's extremely receptive to wind direction. Again, kind of a hunch call, eye test thing for me there now, but I do believe it. Anyway, Ryan Pepio going for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's been kind of average to start the year. Nothing too bad. Nothing that you want to go crazy against, I don't think, for the most part. And then Max Fried has been awesome for the Yankees against the Rays here. Obviously, a little bit of a dangerous place to pitch. Is the total still sitting at 8, which is a little bit lower, I think, than you might expect for these offenses in this park. Again, maybe something to do with that wind direction, something I'm keeping a close eye on as this season progresses. But normal lineup for the Yankees outside of Ben Rice. Got hit on the elbow yesterday. Should be fine, but going to be out at least for this game. And then, Rays, no surprise, have quite a few right-handed bats in there against Max Fried. What are you doing, Bryce, with Rays and Yankees in Tampa here?
I want to play some Yankees bats here. I just think that no one really plays them outside of Yankee Stadium, and they still have a ton of power. Pepio's not a guy I love to pick on here, but if you can get Judge at 5% ownership, sign me up for that every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more apt to take Yankees bats than Rays bats here. Fried is not a guy I ever target. That being said, I don't think Fried's a bad pitching play today, but I would much prefer Luzardo or Skubal over him in terms of both floor and upside here. So, I've been trying to be over on Rays games this year. I do agree with you on the park factor stuff, but it's likely just going to be one side of the game for me. Give me some Yankees bats at low ownership here. Obviously, prioritize Judge on all your Yankee stacks. But even then, Bellinger's not super expensive, 4.8. Grisham's in there at 3.8. I don't think he's going to get pinched for. It's a decent 3-man. There's just not a lot of cheap bats to make the full 5-man work. So I kind of prefer them as Judge 1-offs or 3-mans.
Yeah, makes sense to me. We'll see how it plays in Tampa, but something to keep an eye on there with the wind and the weather. And Max Fried. I mean, if you just decided now you're not going to play any hitters against him all year, you probably end up just fine. Just not a guy who gets blown off and doesn't give up home runs. Just not a guy you need to be playing. And a pretty good bullpen behind him as well. So no Tampa for me. I'm with you there. Certainly the Yankee side, the more interesting of the two when we're talking about that one. KC and Detroit up next. This one in Detroit. Another, or at least one of the first really good pitching environments here. Great park to pitch in anyway, but now you have strong winds and pretty cool temperatures in Detroit for Tariq Skubal. Obviously one of the very, very, if not the top arm in all baseball, coming off a monster performance against Milwaukee. It's this Brewers team that on paper, their strikeout rates are really low. I mean, they are low. It's not, just a paper thing, but I still think Skubal is just going to cruise against this Royals lineup who just shown almost nothing offensively. Now he's pretty safe from giving up home runs in the park too. I think Skubal should be able to tack at will here, and I do expect a big outing at him. I do think I mentioned this last time out. I couldn't shut up about it. I thought it was being way under projected against Milwaukee. That at least proved true for that start, and I think it's true again here. I'm not sure why his strikeout props are lower. I mean, I get it against the Royals, but I'll say it again. I think Skubal's under projected today. And then Michael Wacha, again, not an exciting pitcher, Schlong, but he has a really good park, a really good matchup. He's going to give you 90 pitches, and he's a better pitcher in general than 6,300. So I think Michael Wacha in here has to be in play at that price point. To me, it's kind of close between him and Grant Holmes and Clay Holmes, but I've got Wacha right there with those guys. Curious where you ended up on Tigers and Royals. No offense here for me. I'm not playing the bats in this one.
No bats. Skubal over. He's projecting at what, like 20-some% ownership. I mean, I would consider locking him to get max leverage here. I have the same take as you. I think he's top 3 pitcher in baseball. I might take Crochet ahead of him.
Sure.
And that's about it. I mean, he's a great strikeout arm. He's facing a team that doesn't strike out a ton. Give me the powerful lefty pitcher at home against a relatively bad offense that just doesn't strike out. Expect him to pitch kind of deep into the game here. I don't see many downsides other than the Royals' low strikeout rates here. But I'm playing Skubal on my main team. I'm going to go double expensive with him and Luzardo. I don't think it's something that tons do with some of the value that we get here at pitching. Like that, not to say I'm not playing the cheap pitchers. Like I'm still going to have both Holmeses in my 150. I think Walk is another name that you can put into that pool. Probably around a 10 to 15% play for me. Pitching here, no bats for me. Skubal should be an absolute smash at this ownership.
Yeah, makes total sense to me. Not sure exactly why he's coming in lower round. It was the same thing last start, and let's take advantage again. I think Skubal going to have another very, very strong start for the Tigers in this one. Let's get to New York for the Cardinals and the Mets. We've got Clay Holmes going for the Mets and Sonny Gray, so 2 pretty good pitchers. Holmes has been kind of all over the place, but the strikeouts have really ticked up over the last 2 starts. He has had some really good matchups, 2 against Miami, 1 against that Twins team, but has taken advantage of it in the last 2. Another pretty good matchup here against the Cardinals, who have been okay offensively, but still you certainly can target them. No Arenado today, so a little bit of a watered-down lineup. And then Sonny Gray going for St. Louis, another really good pitcher. Not a perfect matchup here against the Mets, obviously, who do have a good offense, but very friendly pitchers umpire, Bill Miller. Kind of like the quintessential every year great pitchers umpire, which should help both these guys. And a really nice place to pitch. Going to be a little bit warm, but strong winds in from center field. Should play very, very pitcher friendly, which to me takes both these offenses more or less out of play and has me quite interested in both of these pitchers, Clay Holmes and Sonny Gray. What are you doing, Schlong, with Gray, Holmes, Cardinals, and Mets?
Gray is probably my 3rd favorite pitcher overall on the slate. Falls behind Skubal and Luzardo for me, but he would be my preferred alternative or GPP spend. And then, I mentioned Clay Holmes earlier. I think he's my favorite cheaper pitcher today. He is priced up a little bit more from some of these absolute dumpster dives that we've talked about. But, I think he provides a really solid floor, and, he's not going to pitch super deep into a game, but, they've shown consistency with letting him go 90, 95 pitches here. I think he has a good amount of strikeout upside, and 5 to 6 innings is probably what you can expect from him today. You mentioned there's no Arenado. Both these offenses are kind of offenses I'd like to pick on here. If I had to choose one, I would choose Clay Holmes in the salary relief. I'm going to have more of him than Gray, but I think that Gray is a solid alternative up top. Probably about 15 to 20% for me on Gray here. And, I think he comes in super, super low. No bats for me in this game.
Yeah, I like Sonny Gray quite a bit. I really have no problem. I do prefer Luzardo slightly, but not so much that, if I've got a 5-3 stack that works that I need to switch out someone, I'm fine rolling with Sonny Gray. I do have my main build right now has him on it just because he fit. I think it's really, really close between guys like Gray and Luzardo. So no problem with that. I'm with you on Grant Holmes. He's another great play, or Clay Holmes rather. Grant Holmes too, but Clay Holmes. And no shortage of pitching options today, really. I think there's 6-7 guys that you can use. A's and Milwaukee. This one at American Family Field in Milwaukee. Jeffrey Springs going for the A's against the Brewers, and youngster Logan Henderson going for the Brewers. Don't think he's going to go too crazy in this game. Maybe 5 innings from Logan Henderson doesn't look anything special to me. I do think the A's are in consideration. And then Springs does not look good. Just watching him pitch, he looks very hittable. So, yeah, I think the Brewers may be a sneaky stack against Springs, who I just don't trust right now. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing with A's and Brewers?
This is probably going to be my lowest owned game of the day, to be honest. While in a vacuum, I would like these hitters. I think there's way better options. They're just so expensive. Like, I don't know, give me more Boston or Orioles or, even Philly stacks than these guys. I mean, the top of the order, 5K, 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 4.3, 5K, 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 4.5. It's just, and both are super expensive offenses. And, while they carry upside, I would rather try and play them as one-offs or two-mans. And I just think that there's better options at hitter today. More of a price thing than a matchup thing here. And, that being said, while I would like the hitters in a vacuum, I don't like the pitchers here. I think my pitching pool is going to be kind of small today compared to what it normally is. I really like some of these guys that we've mentioned before. So neither would make my pool in 150s today.
All right, let's go to Wrigley Field for the D-backs and the Cubs. Another game where strong winds blowing in at Wrigley Field, where we know the winds affect things more so than at other parks. We do have good hitting matchups against the pitchers, at least. Jameson Taillon, Merrill Kelly. I can't get to either of these two guys. Kind of similar type of pitchers who, are innings eaters, but can certainly be hit hard. And two of the better offenses in baseball here going up against them. Problem is the wind is going to probably reduce the amount of offense in this game, definitely reduce the chances for home runs. Should be the toughest part to hit home runs in today, all things being equal, which makes it hard, I think, to pay the prices for really any bats in this game. This one, more or less a complete cross-up. I'm still not using these pitchers. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing? D-backs and Cubs and Wrigley.
I think it's one of the easiest cross-off games of the day. I don't think either of these pitchers has enough upside. I don't really play hitters in Wrigley in these type of conditions, and especially not when I have good alternatives. So This game's just a complete fade for me.
Same page there. Last game on the slate is the Dodgers and the Rangers in Texas. This one will be indoors, I think. Dodgers do get Shohei Ohtani back from paternity leave. So if you're a believer in the baby bump, the baby narrative, you got Ohtani leading off today, which when it's Shohei Ohtani, I think it's a good one to buy into. Whether or not it's true, he might make it look like it is. So Ohtani, obviously a good play against Tyler Mahle, who's looked pretty decent, but certainly not worried about it for Ohtani. I do think he is the best, or should be the highest projected overall hitter on the slate. Of course, you can play Betts and Freeman and Teoscar behind him if you want to. Tyler Glasnow will go for the Dodgers. It's been a little shaky so far, has Glasnow. Decently tough matchups, so that could have something to do with it, but the velocity's down. I don't think he's a bad pitcher by any means, but I don't think he is a 10K pitcher right now, Glasnow. So he didn't make the cut for me today, even though the matchup's pretty good. Just other options. I like Luzardo, Sonny Gray, Skubal, all better than Glasnow. So didn't make the cut for me. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing with Dodgers and Rangers here?
I could see playing Glasnow like 10 to 15% if you want to get a little more variation in your pitcher pool. I'm likely just going to slam more Skubal and Luzardo. But I'm not going to go out and say Glasnow's a bad play because he's not. I just think I would rather hit the alternatives a little harder, but I do get the argument for him. Don't want any Rangers bats against him. Tyler Mahle, I mean, he's been good this year. Do I trust him against the Dodgers? Probably not. I think there's better alternatives. For the Dodgers, more as like small stacks here. They're so expensive. It's like I would rather just give me more like Ohtani one-off type of deals. One of my friends mentioned that he had a baby. That's why he was out of the team.
Yeah. I've talked about it for like 2 minutes.
Maybe he gets a little baby bump today. So
yeah.
That being said, I mean, jokes aside, he's a great play as always. I always love being over on him and Judge like one-offs in these like do like a 5-2-1 with them as the one-offs. I think those teams played really well. Like just to get different like automatically like in your Boston stacks or whatever. So
yeah,
I like those type of plays a lot.
I love teams when you can fit where it's like LA, Judge, and Ohtani, and then some cheap stack with good pitch and stuff like that can certainly get you to the top of GPPs, which hopefully will happen for one of us or people watching. Appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like button. Real quick, Bryce, give me your favorite pitching pairing, your favorite stack, and one home run for the people.
I mean, it's going to be a little chalky, but I'm playing Skubal, Luzardo, and a 5-man Boston. Favorite play from Boston here. I'm going to go with Devers. I think he's turned it around, and I think he's just waiting to explode one of these days. I think, trying to time it. I think that day is today. So I like him. Favorite one-offs. I mean, we just mentioned that these expensive guys. Give you some cheap ones too. I kind of like Ramon Laureano. I know he hit 2 home runs yesterday. That's not why I'm picking him. I'm picking him because I don't think he's going to get pinch hit for at 2K in a really good matchup. Like he's way better than a 2K hitter.
Makes sense. I'll go with Skubal and Grant Holmes, but I do think there's quite a few ways you could play the pitcher spot today. Favorite stack. I'm making a pivot here. I'm getting on the Guardians against Mitch Keller for the low ownership and power stolen base upside, and then a home run call. Who are we going with here? We'll stick with the Guardians. We'll go with Jose Ramirez. Gets one off of Mitch Keller. That'll do it for this show. Fun day of sports. Appreciate all you guys watching. Happy Easter for those celebrating that. Happy Sunday to everybody else. And the show will be back normal time tomorrow. We got to get to our lineups. Thanks for watching. He's Third and Schlong. I'm DC. We're out of here.